Bonjour! Episode 10 of Musings from the Mountains. I am Keenan Cummings, managing editor of WVSports.com. This is our video podcast. And here's my sidekick, which I'll let him introduce himself today.
And I'm Patrick Kotnik, staff writer for WVSports.com.
Yes, thank you for joining in, tuning along again. Got some stuff for you today. We didn't see practice, so we do not have any practice updates. But what we do have is some sessions with players, player interviews today. Some exciting stuff. We're able to talk to some new guys. One thing that I found particularly interesting was the story of Taj Austin. It's a story that's been told a little bit before, but really kind of got into the meat and potatoes today. He is a defensive end from North Carolina. West Virginia actually recruited him during his initial recruitment. Things didn't work out. He ended up actually staying close to home, going to East Carolina. Was there for a year as a freshman. Got hurt though right before the end of fall camp, and didn't play. So decided to transfer. Wanted to bet on himself. His ultimate goal was to always hopefully make it back to West Virginia. Lo and behold, 6 games in to his junior college season, he gets a call from Bruce Tall, who was then the defensive line coach. Gets an offer, and as they say, the rest is history. Committed the next day. It's actually worked out pretty well for him. The coaches that recruited him aren't here anymore, but the things he liked about West Virginia obviously are. He's more of a true 5 technique defensive end. This scheme fits him with what he wants to do. The term natural pass rusher has been thrown around a lot with him, from Neil Brown, from Vic Koenig, from down the list, Jordan Leslie. He said that he's always kind of been a pass rusher. That's been his strength. He's added weight now. He's up to about 250 pounds and is moving like he's 220. So there's a lot of reasons to be excited about what Taj Austin can do. You heard the other day, Neil said he got 4 sacks. Pretty impressive. I think that if West Virginia's going to get some play off the edge, he could be the guy to do that.
Definitely. And another guy I got to talk to who has an interesting story as well is Adam Stilley, the center.
There you go. You're following up. That's what they call journalism. We've talked about this in our 9th edition, and look, 10th edition, here we are, following up.
Following up. Adam Stilley is a guy who we mentioned yesterday is climbing up the depth chart, and I got to talk to him a little bit. Guy that was really primarily being recruited just by D2 schools. Charleston, Shepherd were in the mix, but he got the preferred walk-on opportunity at West Virginia and immediately jumped at it, couldn't pass that up. So I also talked to Colt McKivitz to ask him, what specifically stands out about Stilley? What has been key to his success? And he said, for a guy that's undersized like Stilley, I believe he stands at about an even, he's about 6 foot, 6'1" maybe. It's his tech, as you would expect from a guy who's undersized, it's the technique and strength that what stand out. And another thing too is that he knows the playbook. He's really been good at identifying fronts. He's been getting reps with the first team. McKivitz really believes that he's starting to build that confidence. I asked him, are you surprised at all by someone like Stilley to make this big of a jump? He said a little bit, like they could see it coming, but for him to be getting reps with the first team, he's like, we didn't think it happened this fast. And I also want to mention too, he's in the mix to be in that top 8, something that Matt Moore mentioned yesterday. McKivitz was also asked about the benefit of having 8 guys. He said it's beneficial in terms of depth. Since the past couple of years, they've had to plug guys in. Guys weren't really ready. They weren't really confident in having the depth to plug in guys, in place of starters. And that's something that has been really beneficial for them, is having guys who are ready to play, that have been getting reps with the 1s and 2s, and you said it provides depth as well.
Yeah, and I think it's important to know too. I mean, you look at a guy like Stilley. They've talked a lot about it. It doesn't necessarily matter, how you get to this point. It comes down to production, and when he's being put in, he's being productive. So that's got him in the mix. When honestly, former walk-on, a lot of people would overlook someone in that situation.
Well, and that too, he came in, I think he said about 258, and he really credited Mike Joseph with his development. Mike Joseph has gotten a lot of praise from the staff,
as they all do,
and a lot of the players. Now I think he weighs in. He said around 290 right now. So I mean, that's a big difference for him.
Me too, but it's not on the good side. As for another interesting thing, I kind of went around today, asked some players, who they thought were standing out at this stage of fall camp. I do this every year. We usually put it inside our inserter notes package, but thought it would be interesting to have it on here. Some names mentioned, of course. Josh Chandler was one. Sam James was one. Tyke Smith was one. The corners, Hakeem Bailey, Keith Washington were mentioned. Dante Stills was a name that was mentioned. The entire defensive line was mentioned by one player. So there's some players.
Did you get mentioned?
I did not get mentioned. I will not get mentioned in anything that has to do with something positive for the football team. But I do think that the interesting part of this is West Virginia still has a camp to close. You know, they have their big scrimmage tomorrow night. So it's interesting that some players are singling some guys out. It's hard to get that sometimes. A lot of times when you ask them, you know, they don't want to be put on the spot. They don't want to say one guy's playing better than the other. Usually it's the whole team's working hard, that type of deal. But when you do get some of those names, it's exciting. You know, Colton McKivitz, Josh Sills are names you always hear. And on defense, to me, and Patrick, you wrote an article about this, which I thought was pretty good. What was Josh Chandler? Yeah, Josh Chandler is a name that I keep hearing from practically anybody associated with the program, and it's a name, again, I heard today. Switching gears here a little bit, I'm going to do something different for our 10th episode. Talk a little basketball. West Virginia went over to Spain. You know, they went 3-0, dominated the competition. Really only one of the 3 games was relatively close. It's a mixed bag what you're going to get this time of the year when you go over. A lot of the American professional players that help make up those teams aren't with the team. But you did find out a few things. One thing you didn't find out was anything about Oscar Tshiebwe. He had a visa issue, did not go over. Bob Huggins expects that that's going to be cleared up by the time they go to Cancun. Those things change a lot. So no panic, you know, nothing going on there. It's just something that happens sometimes. They worked on it all the way up until right when they left. They weren't able to resolve it. Hopefully that is taken care of in the future, and he does expect it to be. As for what happened on the floor, likes the effort. Effort was not a word you heard associated with the West Virginia basketball team at times last year. Likes the effort, thinks that's going to translate. Thinks they play hard, they play together, things you need to be a good basketball team. Something that really kind of stuck out to me, not necessarily individual, but as a team, is he thinks the three-point ball is going to be a weapon for this team. You know, they have shooters. He doesn't anticipate that it's going to be an issue where when they're shooting the ball, everybody on the team is shooting the ball poorly. He thinks they're going to have nights where obviously some guys are off, but they have enough guys to pull the rest of them up. So Hugs is excited about this team. They still have one scholarship open. I would not anticipate that to be filled, is just my guess. If it is going to be filled, probably be a guy that's going to set out and play next year. Still waiting on Ethan Richardson and what's going to happen with that, if he's going to enroll. But optimism around the Hoops team, Patrick.
A lot of optimism, I would say so. I mean, there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic. We saw a lot of flashes from Evan Matthews. That's a guy that Huggins really praised for his offseason efforts, as well as Jordan McCabe too. I wrote an article about that. You know, he had some offseason goals. He wanted to get some guys into the gym. You can't really question his work ethic as well. I mean, he's a guy that even with having the minor knee surgery over the offseason, Huggins even joked and said he's probably they had to tell him to take it easy at points, but he's probably still in here here late at night. So I mean it's pretty interesting.
It's funny you'd mention that because he's a guy that Huggins highlighted. He didn't go home. Players went home for a few days after this trip. He's still in Morgantown. Huggins thinks he's going to find a gym. Didn't wear a sleeve. Never complained once. Huggins thinks he's going to be fine with everything with the knee. Basketball season will be here before you know it. Football season obviously is right on the cusp. We're going to find out a lot more about this football team next time we do this show. Meet with Neil Brown Tuesday. That is going to come after their scrimmage, which is going to be Friday night. That scrimmage is really going to identify where players set in the pecking order, who's going to play, who's not going to play. Are people going to win position jobs? We might have some answers to quarterback. All the questions that you've had pretty much since fall camp has started could be resolved here in the next 5 to 6 days. You know what I'm saying? And game prep starts Thursday, I believe. Thursday for James Madison. They'll go through a full game week. They have a mock game Saturday. So football is back, guys. It is officially back. It's time to stop talking about it and just get excited for it. I do want to remind you, if you do enjoy this podcast, which I hope you do if you're watching it, click subscribe. We'll continue to increase what we do with this, continue to add to what we're kind of doing in the video realm. We do have a great promo. I feel like we have to mention it for WVSports.com. A lot of great written content. You can sign up for an annual subscription for $25 off the normal price. We'll go ahead and give you 3 extra months, so you get 15 months at $25 off the normal price, and a gift card for $75 to get Adidas gear at any Adidas store you want.
It's a great deal.
So there you go. That's enough to probably make you consider it a little bit, if not you surely like what we've been talking about. So this has been another episode of Musings from the Mountains of Keenan Cummings. This was Pat Kotnik. Tune in again for episode 11.